Welcome to the morning feed. Today, I am going to be joined by a special guest for this episode that we will get to in the last half of this episode. I want to quickly recap a little bit because I have a feeling that a lot of people have not heard this story. There are a lot of people who have, but we still need to reach a lot of people, a lot of supporters, and rally for justice in Laurel County, Kentucky. So I want to recap really quickly what has happened here. We are dealing with a very disturbing situation that has left local residents on edge in probably the worst way. Now, first, I just want to give a little shout out to the family of the victim we're going to be talking about today, the family of Doug Harless. We just want them to know that we really, really feel for you. No one could be in your position in the exact way that you are in your position. Every criminal case, every situation that we face like this is different, is unique. No two are the same. And no person is going to be able to feel the anguish to the level that your family has felt this. So we just want to extend that to you, that we recognize how excruciating this likely has been for all of you. Now, what happened here is a very, like I said, disturbing situation. A seemingly hard fought battle over a stolen lawn tool, specifically a weed eater, has put local officials in the spotlight after a Lilly, Kentucky resident, 63-year-old man, was tragically killed during the investigation. Now, if that doesn't sound horrific enough, trust me, it gets a lot worse. And this is so difficult because this is not specific to Laurel County, Kentucky. We see this all over the map. We see police misconduct that we have to fight to get anything done about. We see improper things happening all over the map, and I understand it has to be very difficult to be in a position of authority like that and take the criticism when it comes your way. However, that's really the only thing that you can do with it and be humane. Because it is inhumane when someone has lost their life and people are trying to spin a narrative in order to obfuscate some kind of accountability. So let's get a little more into this. Just before Christmas, 2 days before Christmas, 63-year-old Doug Harless, a local resident of Lilly, Kentucky, was inside his home when a neighboring security camera captured footage of a unit of police officers arriving, walking up his driveway, and eventually conducting a search warrant. Now, right after they entered the residence, you can hear it on the security camera footage. Multiple shots are heard almost immediately after they entered the residence. Now, the very difficult part to stomach comes next. Following this search warrant, police were communicating, of course, during this, and those communications were later revealed through an open records request. Fox 56 has been really good about staying on the story, and on our website, we have linked them in the article that we have written, and you can follow. We have a timeline of events that have happened so far over at themorningfeed.com. We'll link it also in this episode in the description, so you can go over there and check it out if you would like. Now, back to what we're talking about here. They're conducting this search warrant. Those multiple shots that were fired made contact with Doug Harless, and he lost his life. Now, I'll give one caveat that's going to come into play here in the story, and we'll just get this out of the way. Doug Harless allegedly pointed his weapon at officers when they came in. Now, if you're a 63-year-old man who has a weapon in his home and likely has it for protection, and you live in a society where weird things are happening all the time, including people trying to present themselves as law enforcement. We hear stories all the time about this right now. Who knows if Doug Harless had heard any of those stories? We don't know what his mindset was in those split few seconds, nor do we know if he would have immediately dropped that weapon or if it was a knee-jerk reaction, the weapon was near him, he heard people coming into his house, maybe he didn't register police at first, and perhaps he grabbed that weapon. I'm not trying to make excuses for Doug Harless. I'm just trying to understand the situation and why a seemingly law-abiding citizen would grab a weapon and point it at police. However, when it's almost midnight and you have people saying they're police, you know you've done nothing wrong, would be one assumption you could go with. If Doug Harless has never committed, a crime that would warrant people bursting into his home, he may have been very confused in the moment, grabbed his gun, and perhaps he would have dropped that gun immediately afterwards when it really all registered like, wait, these are really guys in uniform now that they're right in front of my face. We don't know what would have happened next. And I also understand the police officer's side that when someone points a weapon at you, you are officially in a life-threatening situation. I get all of these things. I'm just saying there can be explanations on both sides for those specific things. However, Doug Harless lives at 511 Van Zant Road. And when the open records request revealed the communications between the judge executive, David Westerfield, and the officer on scene, they were saying what is allegedly believed to be 489 Van Zant Road. Now we have to use what's immediately available to us. So I'm saying allegedly all over the place because this is what we understand the information to be at this time. Because police, local authorities will not confirm that search warrant and what it said, what the address was, etc. Now to make matters even worse, online in property data for that area of Lilly, Kentucky, you can also see 511 Van Zant Road is mislabeled as 489. However, we're going to get into why that shouldn't have mattered. Now, the neighboring security footage was really the first piece of information in this case to be released to the public that gave any type of answers as to what went down here. The public was given that security footage when the neighbors shared it with Fox 56. Local law enforcement have pretty much remained silent about the majority of all of this incident. In the face of concerned residents and the family of Doug Harless. And the two have really united together to seek answers. There's so many people. There are people who are related to law enforcement and things like that that are very much defending law enforcement. However, they're acting, a lot of them are acting like this is no big deal. It's always a big deal when someone loses their life. If this were a regular citizen, we would want them in handcuffs. The neighboring security footage, like I said, captures the whole thing. Now it shows police arrive, approach the home, and this is just moments before midnight. They actually enter the home and the shots are fired roughly about 11:53 p.m., just 2 nights before Christmas. Now, the community is still putting the pieces together. They don't have really any cooperation from local officials. The details are kind of, it's all just alleged because we're piecing together information because we're not being given the transparency that's needed to verify such information. But on that dispatch audio, you can hear them say 489, when in reality, they arrived at Doug Harless's residence at 511. Now, following the shooting, the community was seeking very basic answers about what happened, and residents quickly became concerned that the information would be hidden from them. And they weren't really demanding specifics about the ongoing investigation as much as they were seeking basic details that are generally released after a police-involved shooting incident. Now, unfortunately, London Police Department, and you're going in this interview that you're going to hear in the next part of the episode, You will hear us talk loosely about some of these details. At the time of the interview, I did not have certain information. I've verified certain information since then, so you may hear me ask questions that I now am talking about with certainty because I've since looked into some more information. Now, London Police Department, unfortunately, they've not used body-worn cameras since 2023, citing that the cameras are outside of their budget. That decision was announced by Chief Chuck Johnson at the time through the London Police Department. That decision has now been revisited by the London Police Department. Now, a man named Elijah Jarvis, he spoke to Fox 56, and over at our website, we have the link to that. At the end of January, he detailed this incident that happened to him. He filed an open records request for the 9/11 call that was placed between the judge executive David Westerfield, who was allegedly leading out this search warrant, and the London police officer Jared Hale, who was on scene allegedly. We don't know any of this because they won't share the official records, but we know who was speaking: Jared Hale and David Westerfield. So Jarvis claimed that the director and the assistant director intercepted his mail to alter an open records request that Jarvis had requested. And he brought the receipts. He brought photos. He brought the whole thing for Fox 56. And when Jarvis arrived at FedEx to pick up the open records request, he was told that two men that were standing over in a corner, kind of overlording over these documents, they had his package. Now, the two men were the Laurel County 9/11 director, Larry Walls, and assistant director, Tyler Pierce, as reported by Fox 56. Now, this can be seen in a photo provided by Jarvis that is also in the Fox 56 piece, and the two men are allegedly standing over his mail and with a marker redacting these documents. I'll say poorly redacting them because they were still able to figure some things out. Following the shooting, though, residents, they've protested in Laurel County. They voiced their concerns on social media, in city council meetings where they are literally removed from the meeting, and outside on public sidewalks. The silence and self-concerned commentary from officials continues to frustrate the entire community. Meanwhile, the Kentucky State Police are allegedly investigating, and I know the community is really eager to hear what happens there. Now back to Buttery for a minute. David Buttery, allegedly he admitted that he stole the items, the lawn tool, a heater, whatever else might have been missing. I think he only actually admitted to those two things, but it's alleged that more items were missing. Now, he is the one who was seen on security camera footage at what is believed to be a home of David Westerfield, the judge executive, stealing these items. He admits to it, allegedly. They arrest him and bring him in for the theft, and he's right now dealing with that in court, and they took him into custody. So they had this information, but allegedly David Buttery tells police that he pawned an item, but that the weed eater was over at a house in Lilly. Well, Lilly is where Van Zant Road is, where the search warrant went down. So we presume, based on everything we've put together, that the information that David Buttery gave to police is what led police to go and do this. This wasn't a search warrant. This was a raid, a middle-of-the-night raid. So they did this middle-of-the-night raid over a weed eater at the wrong home at the direction of the person who had stolen these things, saying that that it would be at a home there in Lilly. Now, we don't know if he ever gave them the precise location, saying it was 489, or maybe this is the person I gave it to, so they tracked it back that way as to what the person's exact address was. We don't know because so much is being hidden. So many very basic details have been hidden. So, I do believe enough has come out to be able to move forward with demanding justice for this situation and accountability. Because there is clear signs that there could be serious negligence here. that ended in a man's life being taken. Now, next, I'm going to get into an interview with a local journalist from Laurel County who has been kind of getting mixed reviews online. Some people are loving what he's doing. A lot of people are loving what he's doing by trying to seek transparency. Um, while some are calling his efforts ridiculous, a waste, and that is highly not the case. Again, a completely innocent man sitting inside of his home lost his life over an incident that never should have happened. Now, at one of the hearings, there was David Westerfield was at a hearing for a man named David Buttery, and at that hearing, he claimed to express his condolences to the Harless family over Doug's life being lost during this incident. It seemed hollow, for sure, considering it was at his direction, at what allegedly may have been his misguided direction. Very, very concerning the way that they're handling this entire thing. Now, let's go back to the search warrant and why I say the address problem never should have mattered, and then we're going to jump into our interview. Conducting a search warrant at a private property is typically vetted ahead of time by law enforcement, specifically if the warrant is issued well in advance and the investigation is ongoing and it's not a matter of an emergency situation. So there are instances where an officer needs to act quickly, and the vetting process may not be there, or it may be minimal. Maybe we only have moments. Maybe there's a missing child inside it. Their life is, at risk, or just depending on what the situation is. Maybe we have a standoff. If we get a standoff, and somebody's inside holding someone else hostage with a weapon, we're going to get a much more immediate response, immediate search warrant, immediate everything. Some states say, with a reasonable belief of something occurring in the home, you can enter. There's all state by state, there's different laws and regulations for how police handle these situations. But it would appear, based on the information that we have to date, that this investigation was ongoing. David Westerfield appeared aware that these items had been missing, and he was figuring out what happened. Now, the location itself, usually when you have advance notice of a warrant, officers will vet that location, make sure they have the right address, blah, 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 just the basic stuff, see what's kind of going on in the neighborhood, see what they might be up against, see what time of day would be best to enter the area and conduct the search warrant for the safety of the community and the officers. There's a lot of thinking that goes into this, a lot of planning to figure out how to best do this for the safety of everybody, especially when you have advance notice and it's not an emergency situation. Last I checked, in court, a stolen weed eater is not an emergency situation. Online property data shows that 511 Van Zant is mislabeled as actually reading 489. So if they looked the location up before they went, they would have seen that as 489 when it's actually 511. Now, the large black numbers on the home that read 511, it's a white home with large black numbers on it that say 511. If the property was vetted ahead of time during daylight hours, that would have been clear as day to be able to see that. So the mislabeled address shouldn't have mattered if proper police work went into vetting this warrant to make sure everything was conducted properly. Anyhow, that is the story, and I hope that people will share it and put a spotlight on what's happening here, because it's really egregious. We're going to talk a little bit more about the story here in a little interview we conducted, and we're really, really thankful that people like this locally are taking their time and pouring their hearts into this story in a very genuine way to try and support the family and support transparency in the community. Everyone who is reporting on these issues, they are very well aware that an ongoing investigation cannot cannot immediately be revealed to the public in detail by detail like we see unfold during the court process of either a guilty plea or a trial. These are not people who are trying to demand information they are not entitled to. They want very simple answers while they await a thorough investigation. And unfortunately, that's not what's happening here. So let's go over to our interview and talk a little bit more about this. Would you like to tell everybody your name, who you are, where they can find you?
Yep. So I go by Crime with Bobby, and that's pretty much my name on all social media platforms. Crime with Bobby.
Awesome. And you're on all the stuff, Facebook, Twitter X, I call it. Um, do you have any kind of audio medium, any podcast or anything like that?
I'm not. The only thing I've kind of messed around with is doing live videos, but I've not ever really tried the podcast route.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? You may at some point get into that, but it just the written reporting is also so important. Um so you're in Kentucky, and when did you get started on reporting on crime that's going on around the country really, but also in Kentucky?
So back in 2021, there was a case. I'm sure you're aware of it. Gabby Petito.
Oh
Whenever
yeah.
her case got started, it kind of just I don't know. I just picked up the phone and started reporting the things that was happening in her case, and then I just started gaining followers. And ever since then, I just kind of kept it more nationwide because doing local stuff, I don't know. It's just like a lot of drama and stuff. I'm sure you know, but
Yeah.
like, but then this active shooter situation happened back in September, and his name was Joseph Couch. He shot on the interstate and shot I think he shot 5 people. He ended up
I
not killing
remember that.
anyone. Yeah, but the manhunt went on for like I don't know, 2 weeks or something, but when that started, it kind of was just like, okay, if things like this continue to happen more locally, I think I need to focus on more local stuff because we don't really have a lot of news coverage in our area. And I mean, there's a lot of people around. So, and then this Doug Harless shooting happened in December, and then I've just been doing local since then.
It seems like recently there's been such an uptick. I don't want to say uptick in things happening in your area, but things being exposed.
Yep, I think that's a good way to look at it. Like, I feel like a lot of things were happening, and just like I said, we don't have any media outlets. Like, most of the stuff goes on in Laurel County, Kentucky, and like London, Corbin. We don't really have any media stations. We have like a couple small newspapers, but there's just no attention on what's going on. So really, there's just not a lot of pressure on officials, and when things like this happen.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's been such an economic impact on a lot of reporting, and southern states have really been hit by that, I feel.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned that, I feel like one of the local media stations, not too far, I think it's WYMT. I'm pretty sure they had to lay people off not long ago. So I've been seeing stuff like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, even when for a time I lived in the South, and that's been like 10 plus years ago, and when I was in and out of southern states, I was already seeing that decline in the printed press.
Yep.
Um so how far are you from the case against Sheriff Mickey Steins?
That one is in Letcher County. I think that one's about 60 miles from where I am.
Okay, little bit of a drive, but not too bad.
Yep, not too far.
Okay, do you plan on going down for any of that?
I had considered it honestly because it's a huge case. I've considered it. I just haven't really been following it as much as I should because I've just been diving into local stuff that's been happening in London.
Yeah, a lot of the depositions in that case have rolled out, and it paints a very murky, dark reality around what was happening with that whole story. But I want to talk about stories also that you are working on around Kentucky. I want to talk more about this situation where basically a search warrant went really, really badly. So I want to talk about that first. I know that you were reporting on the other shooting when it happened on the highway, which was a great source of information. And but I want to talk about this other situation because I feel like you were probably locally seen as an independent guy just doing your thing, reporting on the different crime events that were going on, maybe even seen as a little bit of, I don't want to say an asset, but definitely not an adversary. And now I feel like that relationship locally has maybe kind of changed a bit for you. So I definitely want to talk about that.
Yeah, so for anyone who's curious, Doug Harless is the one she was referring to, and he was shot and killed in his home on December 23rd by the London City Police. They were supposed to be serving a search warrant at 489 Van Zant Road, and they served it at 511 Van Zant Road. And there's been a lot of back and forth about if the PVA had the correct address and whatnot. But the officials are staying very quiet on it. And I've just been doing different things like open records request, emailing, different things like this to try to find out any information. Because, like you said, it almost seems to the majority of people that I'm an asset in some sense. Like they would rather come to my Facebook page than turn on the news. It's actually kind of mind blowing, honestly. But people rely a lot on my page, and I just try to stick to the facts. And, sometimes people don't like the facts, but I just don't try to spread anything that's false.
Right. And that's been become such a problem in um a lot of southern states. It's really become difficult to get the local media to cover what I think are sensitive issues because they the local law enforcement agencies kind of can ice them out the same way that they've done with a lot of independent people as well. And those relationships, when you're a local journalist and you're being, this is your everyday livelihood that you're depending on, you really depend on those relationships. um, and I think that's very, very discouraging because if I'm sending in I do on a regular basis. If I'm sending in the media information that's really not gonna sit well with the community, but something they really need to know about in order if they wanna change it, get rid of it, if they don't like what's happening, that's information that they have a right to. But there's a lot of gatekeeping going on right now when it comes to these various media outlets.
Yeah, there really is. And the media outlets have to be super careful about what they put out, how they say it, and everything. And I feel like doing stuff as an independent journalist, I don't know, I guess you can be more raw. Obviously, like I said, I like to stick to the facts and stuff, but sometimes the facts are not pretty. I mean, the truth isn't pretty.
Exactly. That's why I say you don't even need to be, sensational. I mean, the facts in these cases are really bad enough.
You know,
So let's go over that whole situation because has there ever been any verification on whether or not it was a what type of search warrant that was? Was it a no knock search warrant?
I've seen people say that. I don't think it was a no knock search warrant. Um, but honestly, we have no idea. They won't release anything about the search warrant at all. So if you try to send something to the London City Police Department or the City of London, they just keep referring you to the Kentucky State Police, and the Kentucky State Police will not release anything at all.
Okay, so essentially, what happened here is law enforcement pulls up with a search warrant to what is believed to be the improper address of the home they're supposed to be searching. They go in. Was the man fatally injured?
Yep, he was shot and killed. So the way that it happened is there were I don't know the exact number. There were at least 6 to 7, maybe a few more London City police officers serving a search warrant in the county, and that's caused a lot of debate. Um, they said that they were following up with a theft that happened in the city over some lawn equipment. So they served that search warrant at 11:50 p.m. due to stolen lawn equipment, and they
And
kicked.
was that a
Sorry.
weed whacker? I believe that was a weed whacker,
It
right?
was yeah, it was supposedly a a weed eater, weed whacker, and I think a heater is what someone else had said. But for a fact, a weed eater was involved.
Unbelievable. Go ahead, keep going with what you were saying. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. So when they pulled up, they didn't have their lights on. I don't know if they were dressed as officers. You can't really tell in the video footage that the neighbor caught. Um, and yeah, the neighbor caught footage, which is great because you can see them pull up. I believe it was 2 or 3 of them got out with their AR-15s. A couple of the other ones was surrounding the house. They knocked on the door, announced that the police was there. They kicked in the door, and like right when they kicked in the door, I mean, there were shots fired. They said 5 shots.
Wow.
So, and they're saying that he pointed a gun at them, but it just all happened so fast, and they haven't released any information.
No information at all. No
No information at
documents,
all.
no
No, the
public
London City,
resource.
nope, the London City Police Department put out a statement 3 days after the shooting, which basically said there was an officer involved shooting that resulted in the death of the occupant of the home, and he pulled a gun and officers had to respond, is how they worded it. And then KSP, Kentucky State Police, is what I say when I say that. KSP posted on their website, I can't remember exactly when, but they put a very similar thing. They didn't mention he had a gun, and that was it. Nothing else.
Do you know if in Kentucky police are required to have their body cam on during a search warrant?
I've seen that it's required. However, they discontinued their body cams in 23, and they just now got them back.
Okay. Did the local media report on this much, or what was?
Honestly, at the very beginning, they did a little bit, and then they got like really heavy into it, started doing interviews with the neighbors, things like that. I kind of hesitated to post it at first because I knew that no matter what I said or did, even if it's the truth, I was going to make police officers, the mayor, all these people mad at me, which it happened just like that. And all I was saying is what happened there.
And just asking, and I saw your post during the time. They were very basic, like, wait, what just happened kind of thing.
Yep.
Um, and thankfully there was security footage in the area, or else I'm not really sure how much we would know about this whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think we would have known a whole lot. And honestly, I don't think we would have known that they were packing ARs, I don't think we would have known that there was that many of them out there. I don't think we would have known that they were all London City police officers. There's
How
just so
do
many things.
how did people in the local area feel about this? Has it kind of changed attitudes or
It has.
anything?
Honestly, it makes a lot of people scared because what if someone, let's say an informant says, Bobby here lives at this address and he stole this lawn equipment. Are you going to come beat my door down and kick it in? I
Right.
mean, like how in the world is that okay?
Yeah, well, it's not. It's absolutely not. That is an aggressive use of force, given the situation. I mean, there are times we do, and there are
Yeah.
times a lot of times we don't apply that type of force even when they're taking in somebody that's, accused of murder. So what about did you apply for any FOIAs in this matter and we're told nothing's
Yep.
available?
So regarding the FOIAs, the open records and stuff, I have filed so many these last few months. KSP, I think I filed a few. Obviously, every one of them got denied due to ongoing investigation. If you ever try, anytime you send one to the city of London, the attorney over it will make sure everything you put is exactly how he wants it to be put, or he will deny you for a certain reason. but I have sent in several. I've gotten several, and I've gotten denied on several. It's been kind of mind blowing, honestly, because I don't really ask for anything relating to the investigation. I just ask for things that can help me find out answers that may connect to something.
Yeah, that's interesting that you're getting denied on that. Um, I noticed that you recently also did an interview with Fox.
Yep.
Were you happy with the way that they went and the way that they represented the story?
Yeah, honestly, like Fox 56, WKYT, LEX 18, those stations have been covering this pretty much since this began, and I think they're all out of Lexington, so that's like a little bit away from London, not too far, but they've done a really good job at keeping up with it. And honestly, truthfully, like some of these stations have just been so nice to me and understood where I'm coming from, and they know that I don't spread any lies because most of the time I spread their story that they put out and then cite them, credit them.
Right.
That's typically what I started out doing so I could avoid making people mad, which I still did by doing that.
Right.
But they've done
Um,
really good. They've been down here like, oh gosh, I don't know. Like probably every day. They're down here so much right now. And then these city council meetings are a mess. It's just like there's so much.
that's kinda where I was going to go next. I saw that they completely canceled or postponed their meeting because of is it because of the protesters?
No, the mayor had a death in the family, and that's why they said they did it. But then we also learned that the city attorney had pneumonia, and then one of the council members' father had a heart attack. So there was a few different key factors there, and so they postponed it.
As far as from a local standpoint, you can see a picture and it can be very deceptive. What is has there been a good amount of numbers as far as the protesters that have been down there?
Yes and no, honestly. I feel like there should be so many more. However, I think people are truly scared to say what they think and say how they feel because,
Makes sense.
like for instance, if you say something about Doug Harless, then the police are not going to be your friends, which it's so weird how that's happening right now, but that's just the truth.
Now in London, Kentucky, let's see, your population there is not a lot.
No, it's like should be around 8,000. Now
Yeah.
the county is a little bigger. If you look at Laurel County, it'll give you more of an idea of the residents, but the city itself isn't that big.
Yeah, I mean, angering the mayor in Louisville or angering the mayor in London is a really big difference.
Yep.
Especially, when you're just in a small area and you kind of surround each other. Everybody knows everybody, of course. Um, okay, I did want to see if those council meetings being postponed had anything to do with the protesters.
No,
Um,
I don't think it had anything to do with the protesters, honestly. And I'll tell you another thing that was kind of odd that happened. I think it was in January when one of the protests was going on. The day before the protest, they set up some cameras on some city buildings, and then someone was taking some pictures of them, and then they took them down the day, like they put them up the day before, and then they took them down that evening. So it was really weird. It was almost like they were wanting to keep an eye on us, or I say on us. Well, I mean, I was there recording it, but keep an eye on the protesters and everything. But it was right across from the police department, so I don't understand.
Now, what about do you know much about the defamation case?
Yes, the one against the mayor.
Yes.
The mayor has several right now.
Oh no.
Yeah, he's got several defamation cases going on. One is against a guy named Elijah Jarvis. He's just a local resident, and the mayor said some very nasty things about him on a podcast that was
Oh.
removed like the next day because Elijah's attorney got involved, and then they removed the podcast. Um, and also on that podcast, he talked about two former Kentucky State police troopers who are brothers, and he pretty much called them murderers and a couple other very bad names.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit about that, and I was like, "What is going on here?" I've started to kind of sift through the documents that I can find in relation to some of this, but, yeah, it's like, "What?"
I think the biggest turning point has just recently happened because Elijah's attorney found out that the stuff that the mayor was sharing was from expunged records where Elijah had gave a statement when he was a minor. So it was an expunged record from when he was a minor, and that just created another lawsuit. So there's a lawsuit now against the attorney that represented the mayor at that press conference. We haven't even talked about that, but the mayor did a press conference on the defamation cases with his personal attorney,
Oh.
and it was not really a good look.
Yeah, I could imagine that.
And honestly, there was a lot of controversy there because the mayor said that actually his attorney, Jeremy Bryant, posted on Facebook saying, come support the mayor at his press conference. This was last Thursday at 2 p.m., I think. And they were going to hold it at the city hall. And I was like, okay, well, city hall, I'm allowed in there. I'm an independent journalist. So I called up there and I'm like, hey, my name is Crom with Bobby. I just wanted to make sure I could get into that meeting you guys are having tomorrow or the press conference regarding the mayor. You know, I cover news locally. And she was like, let me get some clarification on that. So then I called her back again a couple hours later just to make sure. And she was like, this is an invite only press conference. And I was like, so you're saying Crom with Bobby is not allowed to attend? She said, I can't tell you that exactly, but I'm assuming if you're not on the list, you can't be there. So then they moved the next morning when the day of the press conference, they moved it to a private location.
Wow.
It's just so bad.
It's gross.
It is.
Really is what it is. And if they, you know, I feel like this is kind of the spiral downward that Letcher County went through, as they were kind of things were trying to be exposed, and people were trying to expose what was going on, and they were trying to stop that at every turn. You know, they even implemented this rule at the sheriff's office that if you wanted to come in and make a complaint about somebody at the sheriff's office, and you could not do this, you know, anonymously, and in some situations I could understand that, but
Yeah.
overall, especially, you know, there was some pretty bombshell claims being made, but they were trying to it wasn't only that you had to personally speak to him, but you had to put it in writing, whatever it was. Um, and that made a lot of people not wanna report it, and they knew that
Yeah.
that would be the outcome of that. However, it didn't work for them. It all came crashing down, and it ended with, an even bigger scandal that opened them up to the entire nation as far as people looking into this story. So, you know, trying to be the gatekeeper on information that I'm not talking about sensitive information that's part of a criminal investigation, but information that we have a right to know is highly important. I'm always the first one in a lot of missing persons cases saying, "No, no, why are they releasing that?" I don't
Yeah.
like it when they give too much. It's never a good thing when they give too much in criminal investigations, but then people go on the other side of it. I've been fighting with Georgia over a lot of requests for a long time, and Georgia is the worst. They have so many lawsuits against them right now for them denying people their basic right to know of information. So it's not just Kentucky; it's all over the place. But even still, it has to be addressed. And trying to gatekeep this information is not going to help you in the long run. And a lot of times, it leads to even bigger things happening because of it, and then it all gets exposed on a national level.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. I agree.
it's really not good. Are there any other major stories that you're covering right now in the area?
No, honestly, just this one. And then I've been trying my best to cover that sheriff and judge shooting that we were talking about in Letcher County.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll do a little shout out. Check out Hillbilly True Crime if you haven't. She has the goods.
I think she, yeah, I think she did a live also on the Doug Harless thing. She shouted me out. She was reading some of my stuff the other day, last week
Oh,
sometime.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
she
pretty
has
cool.
all the depositions and all of that. I like to try to support local people who are covering this stuff, and, she definitely seems like a really down to earth, great person to listen to, um, has a lot of common sense in her theorizing as well, which is easier to listen to than when people have to, like, fully affix the tinfoil hat in order to get their point across. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, she's pretty common sense, but anyway, I just wanted to kinda give you, a platform where you are not on a corporate media timeline of, like, 8 minutes to talk a little bit about what's going on. I know that I've seen you reporting since the Gabby Petito case, and, I appreciate you sticking to the facts and things like that. It's very, very much appreciative, and especially in criminal investigations. It's so difficult when, misinformation is kinda running rampant, and trying to combat that information in order to keep the tip lines focused on the actual facts and information that we're looking for. Um, so anyways, it's definitely appreciated, but when I saw this happening, I thought, "We really just need to talk about it for a minute and see." Um, do you guys need any help out there? I mean, do you need eyes on any of this? Do you need help getting the story out there, or do you need help in any other kind of way with what you're doing?
Honestly, I think just people seeing Doug's story and seeing how it's been 70 days, 71 days, and nobody has said a word. I just feel bad for his family. I think that this deserves all the awareness in the world, and they just deserve to know what happened that night.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just like with Robert Brooks's family recently, you could kind of, imagine a lot of people wouldn't have deep concern over someone who was an inmate, but this man was absolutely just brutally attacked in a way that no one should be in a civilized country. Um, and I see this the same way. I mean, this was a person in their home, minding their own business, and people enter their home. They had the right to, even if that person did grab a gun in that moment, they had every right to protect themselves and do that if they felt intruders were coming into their home. They have no idea what was gonna happen next. Were these robbers? Were they gonna try to kill this person? Like, the man who lives in that home had no idea what was about to happen next or
And
why these people were there.
yeah, exactly. And I was going to say a good key point. This man was 63 years old, and from people that know him, he could hardly hear anyways. So I would say it would be very hard for someone to get up within a minute, a couple of minutes, and get dressed and do all that, and then just having someone bang on your door, like you said, almost at midnight. You never know what's going to go on around here at that time of night.
And, unfortunately, we live in a world where this has happened a lot in the last several months, last year, um, where you have people who will impersonate officers. How do you know that the person banging on your door is not somebody impersonating an officer?
Yep.
Unfortunately, we live in that reality where we kind of have to question everything as situations arise. Um, so even still, I could see somebody being, leery about wait, and even if you announce yourself as an officer at the door, like, "Wait a second, what's going on here?"
Yeah, and I think another great question that one of the family members, actually Doug's sister, asked yesterday, it really made me think in a different way. I just hadn't thought about it too much. But like, when this happened, they said, well, the media said that one officer was on administrative leave. But to this day, now we don't know, is it still one? Is he or she on administrative leave? Is anyone on administrative leave? I mean, there's just so many questions I feel like could be answered, but they just won't.
Well, I think that you're doing a great job in order to try and shed some light on this, and using what you've been doing on a national level now at your local level and trying to get eyes on an extremely important situation. This man, 63 years old, should not have should not have died like this for starters. But essentially, he was murdered by negligence, um, which is on so many levels, not just the wrong address, but using that type of aggressive force in a situation like that is beyond
It
beyond
is.
words,
Yes, it
really.
is. And I also wanted to say, thank you for all the kind words. Like when I first started, it was very hard to just learn all this stuff, but there's been so many great people like you that have helped and guided me. And doing it more locally makes it hard to report the facts. I still try my best to do it, but like there is no media around here. I see
Yeah.
like when the big ones come in, that's cool. We can get the facts for like that story that day, but like this story is still going on each and every day. So like I'm just trying to dig and dig and dig for just more answers and what are they doing to prevent this from happening to someone else.
Yeah, I think we're gonna put this story up on our website as well, and I think, maybe we can collaborate on digging up some additional information in regards to all of this because the public does have a right to know, and if somebody's gatekeeping, there's probably a reason why,
Yep.
and it's probably beneficial to figure out what that reason is. Um,
Exactly. And it's scary too because like they're doing very, very peaceful protests right now, but I just don't know if that can happen forever. I don't know. I mean, everyone knows how people are and the feelings
oh,
are running
yeah.
crazy. Everyone's bashing everyone. They're fighting and arguing constantly. It's just like we've got to have some peace and some answers.
Yeah, it's things are already so divisive enough, and then when you have something like this happening on a local level, it just makes tensions even higher.
It does.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I thank you for the kind words as well, and I fully support you and what you're doing, and we're gonna dig into this a little bit and see what maybe we can help um unravel some of this very tightly knit web.
Yeah, it sounds great. I think you can give some good insight and I don't know, maybe you can see some of the mess I've been dealing with.
All right. Thanks for coming on and we will talk soon. Again, everybody can find you over at Crime with Bobby on all your typical platforms, Twitter or X, whatever you call it now, Facebook.
Mostly I do Facebook, X, TikTok, and YouTube. That's like the
Okay.
main ones.
Awesome. And we will attach your links to the episode when we upload it so that everybody can kind of go over and follow you and follow this case.
Thank you so much.
All right. You have a good evening.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.